Hi, I'm Garrett Lawler from Zendesk. I've always been passionate about exploring various aspects of customer experience and helping businesses enhance their customer care on the best CX platform available. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome you to Zendesk Speaker Spotlight. In this collaborative series, we celebrate CX leaders, developers, and innovators who approach customer experiences with strategic foresight and innovative methods. We aim to delve into stories from across the industry, highlighting how cutting-edge solutions and a customer-centric mindset can drive breakthrough successes and valuable learning opportunities.
Save up and spend smarter with HyperJar, the free money app with prepaid debit card for families, students, and smart spenders.
Welcome to our discussion with Jake from HyperJar, where we're set to uncover the inner workings of their customer experience strategies. Before we dive in, Jake, could you just give us a sense of HyperJar as a business?
Yeah, of course, Garrett. Thanks for having me today. So at HyperJar, we're a spending super app. So our features and the tech that we've created exist only to help our customers organize, control, share, and most importantly, get rewarded for all their spending, better than any other account out there.
Okay, great. Maybe I should be using it myself. Just on a personal note, you yourself, can you give us a sense of kind of your journey and your journey in HyperJar as well, if we could? Like, what steps have you taken in the organization?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions, just because I think my journey is a little bit unusual to how I've ended up sitting in this chair talking to you now. So I started at HyperJar as a customer service agent during COVID. It was my COVID job. I was fresh out of university, kind of fresh-eyed, unsure what I was going to be doing. And I turned out I just had an attitude and an apt to customer service that was something the business was keen to develop in the kind of the customer operations world. And I moved on from customer support agent to a technical support analyst, kind of dealing with specialist customer queries. And then eventually kind of progressed into this Zendesk system manager role. So just overseeing the entire Zendesk environment that we have at HyperJar.
Brilliant. You've obviously seen it all as well, so you've got a really good insight into the business, I'm assuming. Yeah, can you talk us through some of the main changes you've seen? Obviously, you've come in at a time where kind of the world was changing. Can you give us a sense of, like, from a HyperJar standpoint, what are the main changes you've seen from a CX standpoint?
For sure. Well, just from a scale point of view, the way the business has grown in the last 3 years that I've been here, it's just crazy, really. And that translates to customer queries, naturally. So if we look at kind of January last year, we were looking at maybe 200, 300 chats a day, live chats. And now we're kind of 500, 600, sometimes 700 a day. So the volume of customers contacting us has grown significantly. But what's kind of nice that hasn't changed is our customer-centric approach to dealing with these queries. We've continuously kept CSATs really high. Our Trustpilot scores are industry-beating. And so we're doing something right, for sure.
And suppose, how do you manage to work with that? So as volumes increase, typically that probably puts more pressure on your strategy and your CX strategy. How do you ensure you kind of maintain like consistency, and how do you make sure you stick to the strategy you've set out?
Yeah, but it's more just the fact that you have to go back to basics. And I think what's kind of set me out kind of above everyone else in this role, or what it feels like, is the fact that I know what it feels like to be the agent speaking to the customer. And I also obviously know what it feels like to be a customer, because I use the product and also I'm a customer in most things that I do every day. So it's just that kind of feeling of, if something isn't working, just go back to the very basic. What did it feel like when I was an agent typing? Do I need a shortcut here? Do I need an automation there? Do I need a trigger here? Do we need to invest in AI? Obviously, when you're an agent at an agent level, you're not quite making those business decisions or being in the room for those conversations. But it's very nice to now be in those conversations and kind of think, actually, I can make this difference from not only an agent point of view, but also from a customer point of view.
Yeah, no, definitely. And having that kind of first-hand experience, I'm assuming stands to you as well. How do you track it from a customer standpoint? You mentioned kind of, your ratings and whatnot. Is that one of the main measures, or are there other things you track as a business to just ensure that you are keeping on top of the changing dynamics and the volume that's coming in?
It's a great question. So definitely I'd say CSATs would maybe be the main avenue, particularly in the sense that if we do get a negative review, it is rare, they're not coming through, they're not being flooded by any means. But when we do get them through, it's really listening to the voice of the customer, understanding the customer, and we try to respond to every single one. If something hasn't gone well, or there's a procedure that can be updated to make it easier for the customer, we're in a position where the way we've configured our Zendesk, we can see that ticket, we can read the feedback, and a change can be implemented so the next customer doesn't have to go through what the previous one did. So definitely CSAT, responding to 24/7, responding to all the kind of feedback that we can, and just using that for continuous growth opportunities within our environment.
You mentioned the volume of chats that come in. Have you seen a significant change in how businesses are approaching you in terms of like the source they're coming through, or has that changed over time? Like, does that evolve?
Yeah, so we're actually, what I think is fun about these conversations is 98% of our ticket volume is live chat. So when I go to a lot of these kind of conferences or have these discussions, a lot of people talk about the phone lines or email or Instagram DM is now a big conversation people are having, or social media. But we're kind of 98% live chat still. So we haven't necessarily seen the change in channel that people have been coming through, or the methods they've been coming through to contact us. But I would say the customer demand has definitely changed. And that's just across the board, because everyone's terrified with AI coming in. Everyone kind of thinks they're automatically going to speak to a bot. And not only are they automatically going to speak to a bot, they're going to speak to a bot that isn't configured very well, that sends them in an endless loop, and you can never get through to a customer service rep. So luckily, or not luckily, through skilled configuration, we are not in that position. We do have a bot. We're actually paired with Ultimate AI. We've been using them since before the acquisition. So we like to think we're well in there on the way to good automation. And our bot is a really huge asset to our team and to our customers.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that as well, because naturally enough, bots and the discussion around them is becoming like a hot topic. Have you got a name for your bot?
We do. So I can give you the pictures as well, and then I'll tell you which ones didn't quite make it. But so we're currently called HyBot. So HYBOT, HyperJar bot, HyBot. But my two suggestions that were rejected were Kim Jardashian, which got rejected, and HyperJar Binks, which also got rejected for copyright reasons. So unfortunately, the silly bot names were not in, but maybe that's why our bot is so good.
They save up for the things they love in virtual jars. So when the jar is full, they will have enough money for a high adrenaline go-karting experience. Download HyperJar for free.
I'm just intrigued as well from a customer standpoint, when you first went down that road, because I think you were kind of, as you say, probably early adopters on that front to make that like an option for your customers to come through. Like, what was the change, both from the agent side and how they accepted it, but also from the customer side? Did you notice anything in particular that changed as soon as you made that pivot?
It's a great question, because you feel like customers and agents alike are naturally terrified when they hear an AI robot is coming to potentially take their job. But that's the thing, that's not happening at all. We're not using the addition of a virtual assistant to make humans redundant. Like, not at all. We're using the AI to handle the most simple basic queries that it can, to take the pressure off from the agents, so that agents can then focus on delivering outstanding customer service to the humans that do get through to pass the bot. So you can use that additional time to really focus on listening to the voice of the customer, any customer outreach kind of calls that you need to make, sending follow-up emails, which you may not have had time for originally, but now you have time to really take that detailed approach to the customer service that you're providing. And then from a human point of view, from a customer point of view, we made sure from day one that we configured, if you say the words, I want to speak to a human, you can speak to a human. We're not going to send you around in an endless loop. You're not going to have 6 options to just choose from. And then if you've got a 7th option, that's it, tough. It's a real humanistic approach to the way we've configured the bot. And it's just continuing to grow every day.
From the agent side of it, like you mentioned there around giving them time back, allowing them to kind of go and do kind of more detailed work or just be involved in different things. Have you heard anything from them in real time around that? Or how do you track like how they're feeling from an agent satisfaction standpoint?
For sure. So yeah, always checking in on our agents. And what's kind of nice is that agents are part of the feedback loop for the bot. So obviously if customers can say, oh, actually this, you haven't answered my question, bot, what are you doing kind of thing. That's one aspect of us developing the bot. But we also have a request channel for our agents to say, well, actually, the bot asked this question here when maybe it could have phrased it this way to make our life a little bit easier. Or here's a really good idea for an intent we haven't captured before because this can save us some time. So it's including the agents in the discussion of configuring the bot. We had a team of bot builders. It was by no means a one-person job. We kind of had an army of our best customer service reps thinking, if you had to map out a conversation from A to B of the most perfect customer interaction, how would we do that? And then from agent A's input and agent B's input and then my input and looking at the CSAT, looking at kind of projections for the future, you can then put that together to then make just a perfect customer conversation from start to finish.
Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose they've got an involvement in that as well. So I suppose they feel part of that journey in terms of your business as well. Have there been any things that were a surprise or and this doesn't have to be purely from like an AI or bot standpoint, but in your journey, like obviously I think you mentioned 3 years, like through your time at HyperJar, have there been any kind of surprises or things that have cropped up that you didn't expect, particularly from a CX standpoint?
Any surprises? I know we're probably all sick of talking about AI, but I really didn't expect it to take off the way it has taken off. In the sense that when I took over this role in January 2023, I can't believe how much part of my life it's become and how it's become a part of everyone's life. You can't read a LinkedIn post without seeing the word AI, which is hilarious because AI probably wrote the post in the first place. But it's definitely, I'd say the speed at which it's growing was probably the biggest surprise. But I guess is seeing also how customers can interact with the bot when they're fully aware they're speaking to a virtual assistant and not speaking to a human, but some of the courtesy that gets applied. So we've had a few people flirting with the bot, a couple of X's, a couple of wink faces, and it's really nice to see people just embrace AI or see customers embracing AI more than I thought they were going to. I did see a statistic somewhere that said a certain percentage of maybe it's Gen Zers would rather speak to a bot than speak to an agent because they just feel more comfortable getting their problem solved that way.
Hard to imagine, but I suppose that it is blurring so much that it's kind of probably hard to decipher. I think that's potentially the route it's going down. Just on that kind of like the evolution within CX, as you mentioned, right, there's so much going on. I think it's changing at a rapid pace, probably faster than even people who are like yourself, who are so ingrained in the industry. I just don't think people had that expectation. Like, how do you keep up to date and up to speed on all that change? Are there certain things you do? Like, are there groups you're part of?
Yeah, I mean, so when I got introduced to the world of Zendesk administrators, I didn't realize how many pockets there were. So there's all the LinkedIn groups, which is very good. There's a Reddit page. I think it's called Zendesk Admin, or Zendesk is the Reddit page. I've definitely made use of that before to try and connect to my peers. There's the Zendesk, now I'm going to butcher this name, but the Luminaires, Zendesk Luminaires for admins. Probably sounds a lot better in a French accent than my posh British one. And also, bizarrely, I'm part of Zendesk WhatsApp groups as well, full of admins. where we all just talk, we share ways. Hey guys, have you seen this configuration? Have you seen this solution, this automation? So it's just about being part of the community. I'm very much in touch with the person who I learned this role from, who I took over. So if I ever need any advice, he's there to reach out to. But also not being afraid to reach out to Zendesk support. That's kind of why it's there. Just because we're admins, we're the kind of the leadership for it, doesn't mean we know everything. I certainly don't. So not being afraid to ask and get the support that you need is definitely my advice. So it's
yeah. No, I think there's there's kind of quite a thriving community out there. Naturally, on the same theme, so around all the change, is there anything else you've seen or anything coming up that you feel like you're just intrigued by, that you think you may be able to bring into HyperJar's CX strategy going forward?
That's a great question. I would, it's definitely something that we're kind of ready to embrace at some point in the future, and that would be messaging. So at the moment, because we are live chat only, kind of the customer comes to chat and it is an instant kind of connection there and then, but messaging seems to be almost as important to the future of CX as AI is. So it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. Definitely some trials that need to happen with that before we make the switch. But customers don't want to wait to speak to someone, even if that wait is 30 seconds for a live chat or 10 minutes for a phone call. We're all busy. Everyone is working hard at the moment. You want to send your query and not have to sit in a queue and wait. Basically, time is precious. We all need to make the most of the day that we have. So I definitely think messaging is going to be overtake live chat for sure over the next few months, years coming forward. If it already hasn't, I know it already has for a lot of people, but definitely something we'll need to look into. I
suppose it depends who people are on the journey. Just one other question as a follow-on. When you're thinking about a change like that, and it's significant for the business, how do you consider change, and how would you potentially think about, I think you mentioned before, around maybe testing it or going through a few things, but is there something in particular you do when it comes to considering a significant change like that?
Yeah, so we definitely make the most of our sandbox environment, which is a must for anyone who just likes to have a play around before making significant changes. So we would kind of make everything in our sandbox environment. Our sandbox environment within Zendesk is also linked to our staging app as well. So we could kind of just have a staff-only family and friends testing of a big significant change. So that's one really great way to use it. And we work with Salto as well, which are really super useful for kind of deployments between your sandbox environment and your production environment. So it just means if you build everything in your sandbox environment, it's perfect, you've done all the testing, at the click of the button, I can deploy that to my production and it can be live in seconds.
So it's good for someone like yourself to be able to test things out before you push them live as well. I'm sure there's probably plenty of learnings from people that have gone down the route of just implementing things live.
Yes.
Just maybe a last question from me, more around the industry side of things. You work the fintech space, you're in the UK, it's evolved at a crazy pace. There's been a lot happening in that industry. How important is customer experience in terms of differentiating in the fintech space?
So that's a really interesting conversation, and there's been lots of conversations about this happening recently, because what would set fintech out of the financial banking industry away from other industries is just quite how regulated it is. And you kind of think, oh, everything is regulated. What is the angle here? Why is everything so regulated? Why are we regulating things this way? And kind of you maybe think, is this what's the reason behind this? But you kind of remember that at the heart of every regulation is actually the customer. At the heart of every rule, every regulation, every kind of procedure that may seem strict or very specific is ultimately through the lens of the customer to make sure that they are having the best experience, the best service, and the best time. So I would say that the regulatory aspect of working in fintech means that you can't really afford to just go, oops, sorry, I made a mistake. You want to get it right the first time, which is why use your sandbox environments definitely before you make any changes, and just really test everything out before you make the changes, because you can't afford to make mistakes, especially in an industry like this.
Yeah, definitely. I think the expectations from the consumers in that space, like they've evolved over time, and if anything, I would imagine the demands get higher and higher, and the customer expectations get higher, I assume. Do you notice that within your business? Like you mentioned before, people don't want to wait for 5 seconds. I'm just, I would imagine people want an answer now.
Yeah, not so much from a HyperJar point of view, because, one of our kind of core mottos is to obsess with our customers. So we really do love our customers and what they have to say. But speaking from a consumer standpoint, I don't have time to sit waiting for someone to respond to me. And my partner actually finds it really funny because he says I can't go through a call or a live chat with someone in customer service without ending with, oh, I work in customer operations. Here's some feedback to improve your solutions. He says it's really annoying and no one wants to see it and no one's going to pass on the feedback. But I say, no, I'm going to make sure that the feedback is exchanged, because the reason why I like to think I'm good at my job and the reason why HyperJar is so great at handling our customer and customer expectations is because we take the experiences we have as customers and we use that to inform any decision we make. Because you could be the CEO of the biggest company in the world, but to somebody else, you're still just customer 127,000. And you've got to treat that 127,000th customer as if they are the CEO of everything. Everyone is just going to be treated like a CEO. I think that's how I would sum it up.
Okay, I think that's a good way to wrap things up. Look, thanks, Jake, for such an insightful peek into the CX foundations at HyperJar. Look, my biggest takeaway from today is, despite the regulated industry you work in, you still put the customer at the heart of every decision you make. So thanks very much for joining us.